Hello, everybody. My name is Aaron High, and for my final project for Juvenile Delinquency 323, I will be interviewing Timothy Jackson, CEO and founder of Epic Hope Foundation. Timothy Jackson, who is an ex-gang member who was formerly incarcerated, was considered a juvenile delinquent by the state of California. And for those reasons, that's why I chose Timothy as my site for this interview. Timothy, what's happening?
What's going on, man?
How you doing, sir?
Man, I'm blessed to be here in these circumstances, you know.
Thank you for this interview. I appreciate you.
No, I'm honored, man. Thank you.
So what led you into social work?
To be honest, man, there's a host of reasons. You know what I'm saying? I was once considered, as you mentioned, a juvenile delinquent. You know what I'm saying? And while in my last incarcerated situation, I came face to face with, that 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old me, and I had to deal with some unresolved things as an adult man, you know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, I think once I was able to heal from a lot of what I experienced as a youth or as an adolescent, in these adult circumstances, situation, I came to that realization that there are a lot of young men and young women in my immediate community that I will be going back to, that would be needing, my lived experience, like my revelation, like everything that came to me to help me to understand what I couldn't have understood when I was younger. As an adult, I can provide and be a bridge to them, whether from the perspective of a mentor or from the perspective of a counselor or like a consultant.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So what is juvenile delinquency to you?
Juvenile, that's like a bad word to me, honestly. You know what I'm saying? Juvenile delinquency. Every time I'm older now. I'm 43 years old. But I think because the origin of juvenile delinquency came at a time where, if you look back, I'm not sure exactly how deep you guys go in your class, but if you look back to when juvenile delinquency was first, dubbed or coined as far as a term to identify individuals, it came at a certain punitive time where adults and youth were being tried and convicted kind of at the same level. You know what I'm saying? Way, like, I think it was like mid 1800s. And even though I didn't come to learn that until later in life, I think the stigma behind the terms juvenile delinquency, it's a punitive, there's a punitive like undertone to it. I kind of look at a lot of these youth who would be considered juvenile delinquents as opportunity youth, because you have the opportunity to help these youth transition from negative behaviors to positive behaviors in a restorative way. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm not really too big on using that term to identify the youth that or the clients that I have the opportunity to mentor or lead.
Right. What is the most unique lesson you learned in your experience with so-called juvenile delinquents?
Yeah, and so that's gonna kind of go hand in hand with what I was just expressing. I had a mentee, my first mentee, outside of me being released from prison, when I had the opportunity to work with youth. My first mentee, I'll leave his name unsaid, but his father, he was from the gang that you and I were once a part of, and his father was shot and killed by the Oceanside Police Department. And so, I thought that because I knew his father, and because I was lived experience and had transitioned out of a certain lifestyle, and because of what I learned about myself as a youth, that I would be in the best position to lead him and guide him and give him, the wisdom and the insight to help him to step out of, help him to understand the opportunities that were there for him, what I'm saying, even though he made mistakes. But in my efforts he pulled me aside one day and was like, "Look, man, you I appreciate you, you know what I'm saying, but you keep trying to take my traumas from me, you know what I'm saying, and that's all I got. All of my traumatic experiences is what helps me to feel alive and helps me to feel like I belong here, you know what I'm saying, and so stop trying to take, the only thing that I got that helps me to identify, with who I am." I think one of the unique lessons that I learned is that case by case, you know what I'm saying, you have to be flexible and approachable in a restorative way to these youth. You know what I'm saying? Instead of kind of trying to respond and trying to save them from, the punitive consequences of making another mistake. Sometimes it can get in the way of what's really actually happening, which in a lot of cases, we don't even really have as much to do with it as we think. You know what I'm saying? When we're trying to speak things, it's all about what we do. And so I learned that. You know what I'm saying? It's all about what we do.
Okay, I got a two-part question.
Mm-hmm.
That youth you're talking about, was he considered too far gone by the powers that be or the justice system? And was he given restorative opportunities by the community or the justice system to counter his delinquent behavior?
Yeah, great questions. He was considered too far gone. He was given grace and mercy because they understood that his father was, killed by Oceanside Police Department. And so, but the opportunities that were given to him for the restorative practices or processes for him, he was not necessarily, he wasn't in the position, you know what I'm saying, to take advantage of that.
Right.
And I think it's because nobody was doing it with him. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
It was more so like, here, go to this program. If you don't, you're getting locked up. Here, go get tested and put yourself in position for these mentors to encourage you and empower you. If not, you're getting violated.
On top of that, yeah, because that goes to my next question. Valerie Marsh from the Center for Urban Education Success in 2017 published an article titled Restorative Practice, History, Success, Challenges, and Recommendations. She quoted Payne and Welsh, who wrote an article in 2017. And I quote, "Human beings are happier, more cooperative and productive, and more likely to make positive changes in their behavior when those in positions of authority do things with them rather than to them or for them." What benefits the youth more? What benefits society, the community, restorative or punitive?
If you're going to punish somebody for as a consequence for what they do, that's I think it's necessary. But then when you don't aid the youth, we'll just keep it on them. When you don't aid the youth, it's hard for them to transition in their mindset,
Right.
Going into a social, situation, where they can be triggered, or an environmental situation where they can be triggered, or a psychological situation where they can be triggered. If they don't have restorative practices or measures set up for them to transition from the punitive consequences that they just had to live out, recidivism is just going to be a reality for this youth. Yeah.
Thank you for your insight. I appreciate that.
Yep.
Y'all see it? That's why I chose him. You know what I'm saying? Cut.